Hello and welcome to tonight's virtual public meeting hosted by Northwest Incident Management Team 6. My name is Lauren Maloney. I'm a public information officer with the team. I will be facilitating tonight. We will have 5 speakers and then we will have a brief question and answer session. So, and before we get started, before I introduce the speakers, I also want to offer a brief update from Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association. So here's their update. Today, they cut the power to the Pingree Park area, but were able to restore power to a handful of members south of Goodell Corner. Crews are also making good progress on the remainder of the Highway 14 line. Yesterday, crews restored power from Profile Rock east along Highway 14 to roughly 1.5 miles east of 63E. Everything along Manhattan Road between Red Feather Lakes Road, 74E, and Boy Scout Ranch Road, 68C, was also energized. We will continue to provide updates as we have them. For specific questions, members can email PVREA at communications@pvrea.com, or folks can call at 800-432-1012. And we'll get those numbers and the number and the email address into the Facebook chat too. So now I'm going to invite up our first speaker tonight, Incident Commander Sheldon. Sean?
Good evening, everybody, and again, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us and listen to what we have to say and ask some questions. Hopefully you could get some resolution to those questions. Several speakers are going to come up here tonight and talk about what's been going on the fire, what's been going on with the weather, evacuations, and then some status of some other things that are brewing out there on the incident. But just to give you an idea of what things have been like the last several days. So 6 days in a row of really poor humidity recoveries, dry fuels, any unburned islands out there, the firefighters are having to really be diligent to put out because those areas have the ability to rekindle. And how dry are these fuels? Well, fuels the size of my arm are as dry as paper. And you know how paper burns. That's how the fuel's out there on the fires burning. And if you're from the area, live out there, you know what the fuels look like out there. A lot of dead and down component. And so whenever you get fire in that with any wind whatsoever, it's pretty resistant to control for the firefighters. So they are working hard to secure the north perimeter, the west perimeter, and the east perimeter, and then are working really hard on the south area as well. So look forward to hearing your questions and hopefully getting to answer a bunch of them. And so I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, Cameron Peak fire followers. This is John Norton, Jensen Operations Trainee with Northwest Team 6. As many of you learned today from my situational update and from the news, we had some evacuations today. So let's get into what happened today to kind of summarize what we did. So we had some challenges, we had some successes. Today, the challenge was in division uniform. We had a solid point protection strategy in place. It has been implemented. The fire has reached Pingree Park CSU campus. We are currently defensively firing in front of it and around the campus to protect those structures on that compound. We have implemented our structure protection plan, and we have moved additional resources from the fire to that location. We have also worked with our partners at the Larimer County Sheriff's as well as the Colorado DFPC to bring in additional resources to surge in to help us with point protection, to help us with evacuations, and to help us with scouting out and assessing what we got to do next. So we thank them for that. So Point protection strategy has been implemented. So far, it's going very well. The fire was extremely active last night till now, and it's still active. So with these continuous red flag warnings and dry fuel conditions, we've had some challenges. We used aviation here today successfully. The fire wanted to burn north and south at points. It never really pushed east consistently. It wanted to go different directions based on the winds we were getting in that drainage. So what were some successes we had today? Successes for sure is on the north end. With these priority values at risk on the north end, we are not forgetting about this. This is still receiving resources to mop up and secure 9 miles of heavy machinery line, which we're putting effort into on a daily basis. We have had a lot of success in Division Romeo, mopping up and securing houses in the black and adjacent to the black. This time tomorrow, the next day, 1 to 2 days, you're going to see the containment increase on the east side. Barring no weather conditions we're not foreseeing here, but we're getting really close. Foxtrot Lima, we're getting very close to containment. I'd say we have some work to do still, and we have resources we need to keep in here to do that work. Looking at what's north of the fire here. On the west side in Delta, we're continuing to turn hotspot cold shell line into solid control line. Working our way south and working our way east, preventing any new future spot fires in this area. Division Alpha, we mopped up our burnout we did a couple days ago, kept the road open, kept off any deadfall trees off the road, monitored some activity west of Joel Wright Reservoir, which was in the containment line, but has kept an eye on it. Whiskey Zulu, we had some activity in Chapin, but according to our air attack, our air resource, which gives us direction and provides an eye in the sky, not a lot of movement. There was some heat, but not a lot of movement. So with the successes we had today, we were enabled to prioritize resources across the fire towards division uniform. Because remember, we only have so many resources we can do with a 130,000 acre fire. So with what we got going on the north end, we have to staff that. With successes we had along Highway 14 and Structure Group North, on the west side of the fire, we got to reprioritize some resources where we focus them on division uniform here in the CSU Pingaree Park structure protection. I really appreciate the interest you've had in our product here on Facebook. I'd like to introduce the gentleman who's going to be taking over for me after tonight, because this is my last night with you. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys once a day, sometimes twice a day. So here's Troy. I'll pass off
Thank you, John.
The pointer.
Hi, folks. My name is Troy Mueller. I'm an operations sections trainee, and I'll be taking over for John when he leaves tomorrow, and I look forward to bringing you guys the updates for the next few days. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aviva Braun. I'm an incident meteorologist serving with the Northwest 6 team. My day job is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'm based out of the Cheyenne, Wyoming Weather Service office. So let's talk a little bit about the weather that we've been experiencing. As has been mentioned, we've been critical or near critical fire weather for several days now. Last night was our 5th night in a row of poor recoveries, which means that we're not giving our vegetation, our fuels, enough moisture to pause for a second and recoup. They've just been continually stressed. Tonight, we're going into our 6th night of those conditions. With that, we've also had a lot of instability. It's called Haines 6, and that's when we are able to lift more easily. And we have had quite breezy conditions. So we did not have a red flag warning today. We had one several days ago, or yesterday, I believe, getting my days mixed up. And we're going into another day tomorrow where it's near critical. So we'll have low humidities, we'll have above normal temperatures, so very warm. And then we'll have breezy conditions out of the southwest. We do have a front that's coming through. I'm sure everybody's been hearing about it. This front's coming through on Sunday. It's not carrying a lot of moisture, but it is carrying a lot of bang. We're getting a lot of wind with this system. Ahead of it tomorrow, ramping up over the course of the day. And then with it coming through on Sunday and then continually windy behind it, we will get much cooler, much more cold, and we will drop on the fire. We will drop below freezing for about 2 mornings, Monday and Tuesday. But other than that, there's not a lot of moisture with it, and we're looking at a little bit what's called a wetting rain. And that's 1/10 of an inch. We will get somewhere around there, but with the really dry air mass that's coming in right behind it with the really windy conditions, I'm expecting that to evaporate really quickly, especially with the timing of the front, which is going to be out of the way on Sunday before the real heat of the day would occur. So again, just to wrap it up, lots of really critical or to near critical fire weather conditions that our firefighters have been contending with. We did have some funky breezes and winds going on today where the fire growth was occurring. And this is a lot of what we have to forecast for and deal with and contend with on a fire is the topography channeling those winds. So our winds today over the southern portion where the fire growth was, we did have a west-northwest wind that was channeling through to the Comanche Reservoir, and that's what we were picking up at the reservoir. But then at the CSU campus, there's a really good drainage that comes out of the southwest, and we were just west enough that right as the fire reached this point, they were getting eddies and kind of going back on itself. So this is a lot of what is going on the fires, is working with the topography and channeling and figuring out what the next step is with those channels as the fire moves through. I'll hang around for a few questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Katie Donahue. I'm the Canyon Lakes District Ranger with the U.S. Forest Service. These updates I think have been awesome. You haven't seen much of us lately because we haven't had too much to provide you that's changed or different. But I do know that there are a bunch of questions that you guys are asking that haven't been answered yet. So one question that we've been getting repeatedly is, what is the cause of the fire? And I did want to let you know that it's still under investigation, but we are presuming that it's a human-caused fire. So I know that a lot of folks have questions about that. As the investigation is completed, we'll provide some more information, but at this time, it is presumed to be human-caused. Another question we're getting a lot is about our closure, and I understand that the closure is very, very large. For those who aren't aware, the closure starts kind of south of the Buckhorn and covers the entire north end of the National Forest. There's a couple reasons that we have that closure in place. One is just the changing conditions. Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of activity down in this part of the fire for weeks, but we're seeing a big change today. So we want to try to plan ahead for those and not be scrambling to get people out of the woods. And then the other piece is the Mullen Fire, which we've been pretty fortunate has not moved very far into Colorado and hasn't impacted our forest very much, but it could. So we're trying to be prepared for that as well. We do evaluate the closures every day. We work with the team, and we will reopen them when it's safe. I do want to call out Colorado Parks and Wildlife and really highlight that those guys have been working super well with us. The purple areas on the map, and you guys can look at these either on a forest map at home or they're highlighted on the closure map that I know is on Facebook. Those areas are open, so as long as the county roads are open and you can access them, you can still go hunting on state lands. So just wanted to pass those things along, and we'll be available for questions. Thanks.
Good evening, Sheriff Smith. Glad to be back with you. I've been off for a little while. Captain Shellhammer has been here providing the updates, but wanted to get back here tonight. Obviously today was a day of some change for us as we deal with structure protection and homes. I was awakened this morning to the call of the request to do the evacuations of the whole Pingree Park, Pooder Springs area, and County Road 44H, or that upper Buckhorn, all the way down to County Road 27. That call came in. We were a little bit surprised. Certainly, we were aware of the issues up around Comanche Reservoir and a fire. They'd been working it for some period of time up there. But the call came in this morning of some great concerns because of fire behavior overnight, flame links that were extensive early in the morning, which is very rare to see up there. And they were seeing that movement. We knew it would come down from there, and had been concerned and working along Hourglass Reservoir, Sky Ranch, Lutheran Camp, etc. And so after consultation with the fire team this morning, the decision was made to go ahead and unfortunately have to re-evacuate those areas. But it proved to be absolutely the right decision. In doing that, we got teams up immediately and worked that area around the Pingree Park campus all the way down to Pooder Springs, and then worked County Road 44H. So they got it in there today, got everybody taken care of. I know there were some questions from folks out there I'd like to address specifically. One is the Sky Lutheran Ranch. The fire has come through that area. I just talked to my personnel that were up there throughout the day. And the good thing to report is, despite the fact it came through, it came past the residences along Hourglass in that area down to Sky Lutheran, and structure protection was successful. I'm very pleased to share that with you. Fire was all around there. It was a combination of, I'm told, point protection and a lot of burning operations that were able to assure that all those properties, as far as the buildings, came out fine. Same thing with Sky Lutheran. The fire has, I'm told, come around the Pingree Park campus, and again, a combination of protection there that was already set, and burnouts were able to protect that. I don't have specific answers on the property south. What I do have is that we have no reports of structure losses, but the properties are just south of Pooder, Pingree Park campus. I know they were working those as well. And again, some tremendous work by Air Resources along with the structure folks that came in up there and were able to provide that. So that's one area, and that's obviously the one that was kicking up the smoke and bringing the most concern today. It really got us moving. Along with that, I understand absolutely the folks up in Crystal Lake and Red Feather. You've been out for a long time, and we're certainly paying attention to that each and every day. And I can assure you, we're having that conversation, and I personally feel we're getting close, as long as conditions don't change. When I see the progress they've made up in the area on those lines on the north end, and what all the amazing stuff the crews have done, I think we're potentially very close to getting folks in. The next discussion on that scheduled is tomorrow morning to go back over that, and there's some very good discussions. So while we're not there yet, you absolutely have my word that we're working every inch to get all of you folks back in, at least to a voluntary evac. So no, that is absolutely on our mind. Along with that, the stuff in the Pooder Canyon, right now it's closed at Kelly Flats. We're visiting at what point in time we believe we could move that closure up a bit further. And again, it was mentioned earlier, the utilities are a big piece of that. I was up in that area just 2 days ago, and I'm told it's similar today, and that they're still actively working getting those poles up. There's still poles are still lining the road, and as you heard some of the updates, they are working and making some real progress on power and making that safe. So I know we're working in that area as well. Certainly, as that fire moved on that southwest corner, as it did today, it brought up the question with a lot of folks and with us is back to the area down by Glen Haven, the retreat area. We're continuing to watch that very closely. We are not at any trigger points there, but we are continuing to watch because, as we've talked about, we want to make sure, we hate to push people out early, but worse than that is waiting too long to make that call and having people endangered. So we're in that balance with that portion as well. So with that, I think that covers where we're at, again, on the evacuations, where we are in getting people repopulated areas, and just know we're watching both ends. And we appreciate this overhead team. They've made some tremendous progress for the citizens of Larimer County, along with the fire crews that are out there. And we're in a much better place. It was a little rough day today. I think it could have been a lot worse, but for some tremendous work on structure protection. So know those folks are doing just a bang-up job out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Smith. So just to recap, before we go into questions and answers, we've had brief presentations tonight from our Incident Commander, Sean Sheldon, from our Operations Section Chief, John Norton Jensen, from our Incident Meteorologist, Aviva Braun, from our District Ranger, Katie Donahue, and finally from Sheriff Justin Smith. So these are the 5 individuals who will be available to answer questions here for a short session. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the questions out loud, and we'll have each person come up as questions are asked. So the first question is going to be for our Incident Commander, Sean Sheldon. Come on up here, Incident Commander Sean. So Sean, the question for you is, can we get a full air attack on this before Sunday's winds kick in? Thank you for all your hard work.
That's a tough question. Probably better suited for our weather person who knows when those winds are exactly going to come in. But it is all dependent on when those winds come in. Anytime we get winds that are above the 30-mile-an-hour range, it makes doing bucket work and that sort of thing really problematic for those pilots and those aircraft. So it'll all depend on when those winds do surface and where they come from and how gusty they are. So I can't tell you for certain that they'll be able to get a full day's flying in.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so now I'm going to invite Sheriff Smith back up here. Take just a moment.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. So the first question is, what are the trigger points for evacuations further east of Buckhorn Road?
Good question. A lot of people are concerned where the technical trigger points are. You don't like this answer, but it really is dependent. It's dependent on the speed of the fire, the behavior, etc. When the fire is moving slowly, we're looking a little further down the range as to when that would occur. But at times when it really stands up and moves, on those, we're going to move a lot quicker. So there's not a official, at this point, this is exactly when somebody is going to be evacuated. When that fire is running, and this morning proved that, when it got up and moved, we went a long ways out because we know in that terrain where that fire, how quickly it can run, as it did about a month ago. So I wish I could tell you there was an exact trigger point. There's not. There's some trigger areas we look at depending on the fire weather, but I don't want to name those because it gives a false sense of when evacuations will be ordered at a given time depending on weather and conditions.
Thank you. Oh, wait, we've got one more question while we've got you up
yes.
here. So the next question is, what about Pingree Hill, Shambhala area along 68C in getting people back to their homes?
Thank you. I'm looking into that area. I think part of that was addressed a little bit earlier about dealing with the utilities up there. And really, it's a lot of the same issues we're looking at up in the Red Feather area of how buttoned down the fire is in that area. I don't have a good answer on that right now. Things have been changing and improving up there. So we're certainly working and evaluating. We don't have a specific time. And if you give me a quick one on this, one of the things I know that was asked, I failed to mention a little bit earlier, is some of the folks that know the area around Pingree have been asking about George that lives back up near Hourglass. We have been in touch with George all day. George is doing fine. They've checked in on him, and everything's good. My staff's reported several times today. So for those that were questioned and concerned about George, George is doing good and he's holding in there.
Thank you. Okay, now John Norton Jensen. So the question is, how far east of the CSU campus has the fire pushed?
Good question. So hearing what Sheriff had to say with his oceans officers and what our folks are telling us on the ground, it's right there. It's at the campus. It's on both sides. At this point, hopefully if nighttime humidity's going up a little bit, wind's decreasing a little bit, we can slow that spread a bit. But we're protectively firing out those structures right now. So it is there, and it's slowly going around. This point, it could have picked up in the future tonight, absolutely. At this point, it's just kind of steadily going around the campus as we do point protection and fire around those areas to prevent any damage to those structures.
Okay, thank you. I'm pausing for a moment because I can see questions going by on Facebook, but I'm also seeing our great team being able to answer questions directly on Facebook. There is another question coming in. Just hold 1 second while it makes its way. Oh, it's really tiny. How about the Highway 14 corridor? Can you talk about that, please?
Sure can. So the 14 corridor is looking better every day. So we had that, if you guys remember, and gals remember from my Sleeping Elephant Mountain area here, we used the helicopter to burn out that green pocket. Well, it's about closed up now. So there's still some heat in there. But as you progress past the fish hatchery, moving your way east towards Kelly Flats, it's looking real good. So we're still mopping up heat around structures in there. There's still potentially some fire weakened trees. We got to talk to the DOT about, and the Larimer County Sheriff. We got to make sure the road's safe. But it's looking a lot better. We're mopping up around houses. We just got to assess the danger to the public about that road opening up.
Stand by one. I see another question coming in. Did the fire impact the Pooder Springs area today, or did you slow it around Pingree Park?
So, good question. We use structure protection methods and point protection firing to impede the fire spread. Is the fire going to continue to move? Yes. Can we protect the values at risk and have it go around those values at risk? That's our plan. That's what we fully intend to do. Now, like I said, it's basically at the campus now and working its way around the campus. And the morning update will fill you all in on where it is tomorrow morning as well.
That, John, I believe, is the end of the questions. Oh, it looks like one more might be coming through.
Okay.
Let's just pause for a moment here. Oh, yep, here we go. So the question relates, okay, I'll just read it. Why do you not entirely cover those buildings with fire-resistant wrap at CSU Mountain Campus?
Okay, good old-fashioned structure wrap. Alrighty, so for values at risk or structures out, kind of like we talked about, we had a morning we talked about this, so kind of out in the middle of an area which has very poor access or hard to get to or takes long travel times to get to, or we can't leave firefighters because of maybe safety concerns or just takes forever to get there. Mostly safety concerns. We don't, firefighter safety and public safety is number one priority. That's when we use that structure wrap. In the case of Pingree Park, they've done a good job of field mitigation. They've taken good responsibility for that. There was a fire there in the 90s as well. But if we can have firefighters in a situation where it's safe to operate and function, that's way better than structure wrap. If I have an engine crew from Loveland sitting there with 5 folks and 800 gallons of water, they're going to be more effective protecting that structure than wrapping it in structure wrap and driving away. So it's always good to have a safe area for our firefighters to work. If we have that safe area, we can leave folks in there and do point protection. Point protection means we have firefighters at those structures that it's been deemed safe to be there and work, and the fire goes around them as we put out embers, we pick up spot fires, we protectively fire out around the structures. But it's always good to have firefighters on the ground next to structures as opposed to wrapping it in shelter wrap and driving away. That's a tactic we use, and it's very successful at times. But if we have the option to have people on the ground there and we have the people to do it, which we do have the people to do it, we'd much rather do that.
Okay, John, thank you. Wait, we're going to ask just one more question here.
I'm back. Okay.
You're back, and that's it. I think we're going to call it on questions. So this will be your final question for the night. The question is, what is your plan for contingent lines to stop eastward growth toward Lower Buckhorn? Do you have a contingent line plan? I feel like we've talked about that a little bit, so you should be able to.
We have. So right now our primary plan is point protection around the structures at Pingree Park and Pooder subdivision. Pingree subdivision, pardon me. There's some potential to use the Pingree Road to tie it into the 234 road and do some some firing in that situation. This is going to be done based upon fire behavior, how far the fire has advanced. But we're going to focus more on point protection right here for now. But we do have a backup plan involving firing off a road that we're working on as we speak.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So that will conclude our question and answer session for the night. I see that there have been a few other questions coming in on Facebook, and our great team of public information officers is currently responding to those questions. I also see that there are a few questions that have been asked that were answered earlier in the presentation as people talked. For example, the status of the Lutheran church camp, which is fine. People continue to ask, so I want to invite you, if you missed the first part of this briefing, please know that soon after we complete this, it will be available as a video that you can watch at your leisure. So if you feel like you still have questions out there, go ahead and take a look at the earlier part of this session. And then of course, you can always reach out to us here in the Public Information Shop. Notes on Facebook are fine. Giving us a call is fine. You can also look up fire information on InstaWeb for this fire. We're posting on YouTube, and there's a story map located on InstaWeb. So there are a lot of good ways to get information, not to mention that we do have public information officers out in the community that you may see visiting popular locations who can take the time to talk with you personally. So we thank you for your interest in the Cameron Peak Fire, and that will, I can't conclude this meeting without reminding you that we're at the tail end of National Fire Prevention Week. Of course, we do have a lot of fires here in Colorado. It's hot, it's dry. You heard from our incident meteorologist that weather conditions are setting up to be fairly extreme this coming week, so please be mindful of any activity that you do that could cause a spark, that could begin a new wildfire. We want to completely eliminate any new wildfires on the landscape. And with that, we'll conclude tonight's briefing. Thank you.